Nobody truly saw her, not genuinely, beneath the merciless glare of the binary star system and the bitter tang of processed atmosphere. The trafficking center at Krell's Junction hummed with existence and barbarity. The Centauri commerce pathway, that vital artery of the civilized sectors, flowed through this place with all the elegance of a blocked drain dense with vessels, corrupted by greed. Massive displays flickered with holographic advertisements. For domestic servants, combat-trained brutes, and purebred entertainers, all guaranteeing compliance with cheerful facades, Naya stood motionless, enveloped in the reek of perspiration, mechanical lubricant, and terror. The auction stage beneath her trembled faintly with each movement of the gathering. A multitude of species awaited sail-furred, scaled, feathered, some resembling humans, others decidedly not. Merchants wandered among them like farmers inspecting livestock, examining neural tags and inspecting teeth. Most didn't pause to examine her. Those who did never lingered long to slender to silent, skin to peculiar, emerald-like precious stone gleaming under moonbeams, with delicate threads of bioluminescence flickering along her throat and wrists, pulsing in gentle waves like respiration. Her eyes were a soft opalescent amber, perpetually half-closed, avoiding contact. She remained still with her hands clasped before her, neither submissive nor defiant, simply fated. The dealer was growing frantic. A barrel-chested Proximan with cybernetic limbs and a shock weapon hanging from his belt barked with weary aggression. Rare species, strong mental resistance, cleans up beautifully, no previous ownership, lies, all of it. He couldn't identify what she was, nobody could, not truly. He couldn't even pronounce her homeworld's name correctly because it had been erased from the star charts nearly a decade past. A Altarian merchant glanced away, then snorted. Appears defective. Malnourished? Did you scan her for cognitive impairment? Clean slate, the dealer insisted, pushing forward. Docile and undamaged. A passing trader in silk-trimmed armor paused, leaned closer, then wrinkled his nose. What's that odor? Emotion suppression drugs wearing off, the dealer muttered, stepping between them with an uneasy smile. Simple fix. Naya didn't react, not to the stares, the whispers, or the evaluations. Not even when a mechanical probe descended to flash a light in her eyes. She barely breathed. It was simpler that way. The noise, the heat, the stench, it all merged together. But her mind, buried beneath a decade of conditioning, still drifted sideways sometimes. Fractured azure skies, hands warm against her face, laughter, flowing water, memory, dream, or just fragments the brain created to stay sane, free. The dealer suddenly bellowed, throwing his arms skyward. I'm serious. Just take her off my hands. She's occupying display space. Buyers chuckled and moved on. Even in a place where life was sold by weight, she was worthless. And then someone stopped. Naya noticed him first by the shift in pressure. The energy around her changed. Not tense, not leering, just still. She slowly raised her gaze. He was human. Of all the species she had learned to fear, that one she knew least, yet instinctively trusted least of all. Humans had a reputation in the outer systems, reckless, emotional, violent when cornered, too new to the galactic stage to understand their place, too stubborn to accept it. Yet he didn't look like a conqueror. Dust clung to the folds of his jacket. His boots were worn, crusted with reddish grit from the surrounding satellites. His eyes a shade of gray that caught the fading sunlight like iron catching a spark, didn't scan or judge. They just held her quietly. Without pity, she'd forgotten what it felt like to be looked at like that. The dealer perked up, suddenly energized. You want her? I mean it, she's yours. Free, free, free. No tag fees, no medical scans, no trouble. She's odd, doesn't talk, doesn't eat much. Kind of unsettling, if I'm honest. The man didn't respond immediately. Then calmly he said, she's not unsettling. She looks like someone who's never been treated like a person. The dealer blinked. Look, friend, you want to distribute charity. There's an orphan booth down in the second ring. I'll take her. The man said, voice low but firm. Transfer ownership. No tracker. I don't want anyone claiming salvage later. The dealer hesitated. You certain? Yeah. Paperwork was transferred onto a data chip. The man signed with a thumbprint and retinal scan. The dealer shoved the chain into his hand with visible relief, as if he'd just unloaded a cursed artifact, and that was it. Legally, physically, completely she was his. He didn't tug the chain. He didn't grab her arm. He simply looked at her and said, "You can walk." So she did. The crowd parted slightly as they left, a subtle ripple of unease passing through the nearby buyers. No one tried to stop them. No one cared enough to question why he'd taken her. He didn't speak again until they reached the edge of the market. The shuttle port buzzed in the distance, loud engines rising into orbit, carrying cargo and corpses alike to scattered corners of the stars. But he turned away from the port and walked toward the outskirts, toward the hills. "I'm Marcus," he said after a while, not looking back. Naya said nothing. They reached a small house built into a cliffside. Old tech, manual locks, real wood beams reinforced with synthetic steel. Vines had begun to reclaim parts of the roof. A solar turbine hummed softly in the wind. It wasn't fortified. It wasn't rich. It was home. She hesitated at the door. He opened it and stepped aside. "You can come in if you want." Inside, the air was cool. There was the faint scent of spice and soap and machine oil. He didn't lead her to a cage. He didn't point to a mat on the floor. Instead, he showed her a room. Blankets, clean clothes, a water basin. "I made stew," he said, almost awkwardly. "If you eat, if not, that's fine too." Naya sat on the edge of the bed, still expecting the pain to come, still waiting for the trick, the command, the punishment. But nothing came. That night, she didn't sleep. She sat upright, listening for footsteps, for locks, for anything that made the illusion crack. Nothing. The next morning, food appeared again. Hot, fresh, spiced with something warm and earthy. He didn't speak much, but when he passed her, he always moved slowly, deliberately, giving her space. By the third day, the silence had changed. It no longer felt like waiting. When he returned that evening, he had something in his hand. Small, delicate flowers with pale violet petals and tiny yellow cores. "Wild, not bought. These reminded me of your eyes," he said, placing them in a glass beside her bed. She stared at them. He didn't ask her to like them, didn't expect gratitude. He just set them there and moved on, like it was normal. But it wasn't normal. Her eyes stung. Her chest ached. She didn't know why. Tears came slowly, soundlessly, confusing, unwelcome, uncontrollable. He found her like that an hour later. He didn't flinch, didn't try to stop her. He just sat beside the bed, not touching her, just near enough to feel real. "You don't owe me anything," Marcus said, his voice quiet and steady. "You're not here to serve. You're here because no one else saw you. And I did." Her throat locked. The words she wanted to say, whatever they were buried deep under layers of silence and fear and memory. But the tightness in her chest loosened just a little. It hurt in a different way, not like pain, like healing. Like something old and broken had begun, without permission, to stitch itself back together. Naya still didn't understand him. She didn't know what humans were supposed to be. But this one didn't treat kindness like currency. And that made him dangerous. And maybe, just maybe, worth trusting. For now, the warning came with the air. Long before the clouds rolled in or the sirens sounded from the lower ridges. Naya felt it, a shift in pressure, a tingling at the base of her spine. Her skin reacted before her mind could catch up, bioluminescent threads along her arms flickering in slow, uneasy pulses. Marcus had left the main hatch open while working on the external generator. He was halfway through adjusting the cooling fans when she stepped out silently onto the front step. He looked up at the sky. "You feel it too, huh?" She didn't respond. Her eyes were locked on the horizon. The hills in the distance were swallowed by a dark, low mass of storm clouds, heavy with static. Twin bolts of lightning cracked across the upper atmosphere, electric violet and unnatural. Marcus stood up and wiped his hands on his shirt. Plasma storm, probably nasty one, by the look of it. Naya stepped backward, her heel brushing the threshold. Her breath was uneven, chest rising too fast. The wind picked up, laced with a sharp scent of charged particles and old metal. She knew that smell, that sound. She remembered the last time, not a dream, not a vision, memory. The rattling of a steel cage bolted to the side of a slaver ship. The groaning of engines straining through turbulence. The storm hitting harder than forecasted. And then blackout. The power failed. The sedatives wore off too fast. The lights flickered. Screams rose through the darkness like sirens underwater. One of the guards slipped on the deck and hit his head. Another fired his weapon blindly into the cages. They didn't understand what storms did to her kind. Marcus noticed the way she stiffened, the way her pupils widened and her breath shortened. He set the wrench down. "Hey," he said gently, "come inside." She didn't move. "Storm's going to hit hard. I've got a reinforced shelter below the house. We'll be fine, but you need to come with me." Still nothing. Her body remained frozen in that old memory, her mind replaying what it had learned too well. When lightning struck, pain followed. Always. Marcus didn't touch her, didn't push. Instead, he walked past her and pulled open the trapdoor at the side of the house. "I'm going down now," he said, voice even. "It's not locked. You can come if you want." Then he disappeared down into the shelter, leaving the hatch open behind him. Seconds passed. Then a minute. Then another. When the first blast of thunder shook the sky, Naya bolted inside. She didn't think she just moved, feet pounding down the stairs into the dim metallic chamber where Marcus had already lit a lantern and set out blankets on the floor. She pressed herself into the farthest corner of the shelter and sank to her knees, arms wrapped tightly around her chest. The walls vibrated with the storm's arrival. Outside, wind clawed at the roof. The sound of a deep, low roar was too familiar. Marcus sat across from her, calm but watchful. He said nothing. No questions, no commentary. After a few minutes, he leaned his head back against the wall and started talking, not to her exactly, just into the space. "First storm I ever saw was on Kepler 7. Open skies, flat land. The lightning moved like it was hunting something. It took out our cumare, burned half our crops, and knocked a cargo hauler out of the air." His voice was steady, grounding. Naya kept her head down, but she was listening. "I was young," he continued. "My brother thought it was exciting. I thought it was the end of the world. Spent the whole night curled up in the grain silo. I didn't sleep for days after." He paused then. "You ever get that? Like your body remembers before your brain catches up?" Naya finally looked at him slowly, warily. "Yes," she said. One word, but it was enough. He nodded once. "Makes sense." The storm surged again, and the lights flickered. The shelter shuddered. With the impact, Naya flinched hard, her hands gripping the edge of the cot, her breathing ragged. Marcus stood up and moved, but not toward her. He grabbed a folded tarp from the corner and spread it near her feet, then sat down beside it, leaving a clear space between them. "I'll stay here," he said, "in case you need me." She stared at him, not with fear now, but confusion and something like disbelief. He didn't demand her trust. He didn't touch her. He simply stayed. Time passed. The worst of the storm screamed overhead, but inside, the shelter felt different. Now, the air was still tight but not suffocating. Marcus had filled it with presence, not pressure. Eventually, Naya's posture loosened. She sat back, no longer curled in on herself. Her voice, when it came, was quiet but clear. "We were trained to feel everything, every current of emotion, every shift in tone or thought. It made us good healers, good memory keepers. But when storms came, we couldn't block anything out." Marcus didn't interrupt. "We'd panic, overload. Some of us broke." He looked at her gently. "But you didn't." "No," she said, "not completely." Then she whispered, "But I'm tired of surviving." Marcus's voice softened. "Then maybe it's time to live." Silence again, but this one didn't hurt. It wrapped around them like a shared blanket. After a while she asked, "Why do you live alone, Marcus?" He gave her a sad smile. "Because when I was with people, I was always trying to fix what I couldn't save. And now I fix what's in front of me." Naya looked down at her hands. The faint green glow from her skin had dimmed. Her fingers didn't tremble anymore. "I'm not something broken," she said, almost like a warning. Marcus met her gaze. "I know. That's why I'm still here." Thunder cracked, and for the first time in years, she didn't flinch. The storm passed just before dawn. When they climbed out of the shelter, the air was wet and heavy, but the sun was already burning through the clouds. Naya turned her face to the sky. She didn't smile, but she didn't hide either. Marcus offered her a cup of hot water. She took it. Something had changed. Not fixed, not solved, but changed. And for the first time, Naya realized she might not have to face the galaxy alone. Marcus was humming again, a low, tuneless melody, barely more than a breath drifting from the corner of the workshop where he crouched over a damaged power cell. His sleeves were rolled up to his elbows, grease smudged across his forearm. Naya stood at the threshold, watching silently. She'd started doing that more often lately, not hiding, not quite participating, just being present. The storm had passed days ago, but its aftermath lingered in her, the kind of silence that came after surviving something you weren't sure you'd live through. But he never brought it up, never mentioned her shaking hands, her breathless panic in the shelter, or the way she'd whispered safe like it was a foreign word. He didn't even glance up when he spoke. "Can you hand me that circuit clamp?" The small one, green handle. Naya's eyes flicked to the table. She picked it up and held it out without a word. He took it gently, brushing her fingers by accident. She didn't flinch. "Progress, thanks," he said, then returned to working. After a while he added, "You're good at this. Most people don't even know how to hold a tool like that, let alone pick the right one on site." She hesitated, then sat on the edge of a nearby crate, legs pulled in. "I used to help maintain memory cores," she said softly. "Delicate work. Precision mattered." Marcus looked up, brow lifted. "Memory cores? As in AI systems?" "No, emotional archives. My people, we didn't store data. We stored experiences." Marcus straightened up, interest sparking in his tired eyes. "Liralai, right?" She blinked. "You know that name?" He nodded slowly. "Heard stories. Traders said you were wiped out, said the Liralai were dangerous." She looked away, jaw tightening. Dangerous because we remembered what others wanted to forget. Silence settled between them. Then Marcus said, almost cautiously, "So how did you survive?" Naya's fingers twitched slightly on her knees. "I was taken young. Before the fires, before the glass fell on the temples, a slaver ship hit one of our lesser moons. I was supposed to carry a diplomat's memory. We transferred them at ceremonies. But they took me instead. They thought I was some kind of empathic asset." Marcus swallowed, looking down at the floor. "And after that, storage, silence, drugs. They kept me on sedation for years, said I kept triggering the others." He didn't speak. He didn't have to. And for the first time, she asked him something. "What about you? Why are you here alone, on a dust world?" Marcus gave a short, humorless laugh. "Long story." "I want to hear it," she said gently. He rubbed the back of his neck. "Used to work out on the Terran Rim. Repairs? Mostly. Combat salvage. I was stationed on Kepler Prime during the Reclaimer uprisings." He paused, and when he continued, his voice was quieter. "There was a girl, my sister, Elena. She was in the safe zone, or supposed to be. A militia group mistook her for a tech smuggler, shot her before I could get to her. I saw her fall from across a plaza too far to do anything." Naya's gaze was steady, solemn. "I'm sorry." "She was young," he said. "Brightest damn thing I'd ever known. After that, I couldn't stay. Left the unit. Took every off-world job I could. Eventually found this place. Dead enough that no one asks questions." They sat in silence for a long moment. Shared pain is a strange thing. It doesn't ease your own, but it reshapes it. Makes it less sharp, less alone. Finally, Marcus stood up, stretching. "You hungry?" Naya nodded faintly. They shared a simple meal: root stew, stale bread, water with a slice of something sour. It was quiet, comfortable. Later, as night fell and wind rustled the vines on the outer wall, Marcus pulled an old tin box from a cabinet and set it on the table between them. "You strike me as someone who likes patterns," he said. Naya raised a brow slightly. Inside the box were dozens of tiny mechanical parts: old drive chips, broken watch gears, magnets, copper thread. He gave her a shrug. "Call it puzzle therapy. Helps pass the time." Without a word, Naya reached in and began arranging the pieces, connecting shapes, stacking weights, twisting bits until they aligned into a small kinetic sculpture. The motion was fluid, natural, like she was remembering something her hands knew better than her mind. Marcus watched, smiling to himself. "You were a builder too, huh?" "No, we built with meaning." She turned the sculpture gently. It ticked once, then spun. Every object held a memory, a story. Marcus picked up a gear and turned it over. "And if you didn't want to remember?" She paused, then said, "Then we held it for you." He looked at her like he was seeing something new, not just a survivor, not just a mystery, but someone whole, even in pieces. When she finally returned to her room that night, she found a clean data pad resting on the bed. Not a command, not an expectation, just a blank space, a place to write or remember. And that night, Naya did something she hadn't done in years. She dreamed. Not of cages, not of shadows or screaming stars, but of a firelit room, a shared silence, and broken people trying, slowly, quietly, to build something beneath the surface. The sun had already slipped below the cliffs, painting the sky in bruised purples and fading gold. Marcus hadn't said much all afternoon, but that wasn't unusual. Some silences between them had begun to feel less like distance and more like shared space. But tonight, something was different. He returned from his usual walk later than usual. Boots dusted in red soil and a strange softness in his expression. Without a word, he stepped into the workshop and held something out to her. A flower. It was small and imperfect, violet petals curling at the edges, silver threads of bioluminescence glowing faintly from the center. Fragile but undeniably beautiful. I found it near the ridge, he said. Thought it looked like you the way it catches light when no one's looking. Naya stared at it, not moving, not blinking, just stunned. For me? She asked. Marcus gave a small nod. Yeah. She reached out slowly, as if expecting it to vanish the moment her skin touched it. Her fingers brushed the stem warm, alive. The glow shifted to match her own. No one had ever given her a gift before. Not freely, not just because. This is mine, she whispered. Only if you want it, Marcus said. She clutched the flower to her chest. Her throat tightened. Heat welled behind her eyes, sharp and sudden. She shook her head slightly, as if confused by her own reaction. No one ever gave me anything, she murmured. Not without wanting something back. Marcus didn't answer. He didn't need to. The tears came without warning. She sank onto the bench beside the console, covering her face with her hands as her shoulders began to shake. It wasn't the loud, gasping kind of grief. It was the kind that had waited too long, quietly piling up in corners of the soul until it had nowhere else to go. Marcus didn't speak. He didn't try to stop her. He just sat near, close enough to feel, but far enough to let her feel it alone. When she looked up, her face was streaked with tears, and the flower still rested in her hand. Her gaze locked with his, and in that moment, she crossed a line she didn't even know she'd drawn. She moved to him slowly, deliberately, placing one hand on his shoulder, then brushing the other against his jaw. His breath caught, but he didn't flinch. I want to know what it would feel like, she whispered, and then she kissed him. Soft, uncertain, trembling, but real. Marcus didn't move at first. Then his hand gently touched her waist, not pulling, just anchoring. When their lips parted, their foreheads rested together, breathing in the same space. Naya's voice trembled. I don't know why I did that. Marcus smiled faintly. I think I do. She exhaled, shaky, but lighter. Thank you for the flower. You can keep it, he said, no matter what happens. That stillness might have lasted all night if not for the soft click of a perimeter alert flashing red near the front hatch. Marcus stood instantly. Stay here, he said, grabbing the old pump-action scatter rifle from behind the door. His tone had shifted, calm but focused, protective. But Naya didn't stay. She followed him silently, keeping close. They reached the perimeter fence together. A drone courier, small civilian class, hovered in place, casting a pale red glow across the ground. Its body emitted a soft hum, and a projected message flickered to life above it in bold letters. Warrant filed harboring unregistered sentient being. Naya froze. The world tilted beneath her, a free fall into old fear. Marcus stepped forward and activated the decryption pad on the drone's side. His eyes scanned the fine print. When he spoke, his voice was flat and clipped. They flagged you. She didn't respond. Tried to keep us under the radar, but the trade authority must have run a market-wide scan. Your tag came up as unclaimed. That's a red flag for them. Her throat went dry. Are they coming? He didn't answer immediately. Then, yes, maybe not tonight, maybe not tomorrow, but they will. The silence that followed was thick and alive. The wind picked up, rattling the old fencing. Naya looked at him. You should have left me there. Marcus turned to her sharply. Don't say that. It's the truth. Now they'll come for you too. I don't care. You should. I don't, he said, jaw tight, because for the first time in years, I finally gave a damn about someone again, and I'm not walking away from that. Her eyes widened. She wasn't prepared for the heat in his voice or the softness in his eyes beneath it. I'm not going to run, she said. I wasn't going to let you. Something between them changed again. The fear didn't vanish, but it had somewhere to go now. It had room. Marcus looked back at the drone, then tapped the override and shut it down. The hum died. The red glow faded. He turned back to her. Come inside. We need to talk about what we're going to do next. But Naya stepped toward him, hands still holding The flower. Her fingers laced into his, and this time, he let her lead. The door shut behind them, and outside, the stars blinked quietly, watching souls who had stopped running for now. The warning drone didn't come back the next day, but the silence it left behind was worse. Naya moved differently now, more alert, more watchful. Not with the tension of prey, but with the sharp awareness of someone who knew the hunt had already begun. Marcus didn't say much. He spent the morning reinforcing the door locks, checking the charge on the rifle, updating the local jammer that cloaked their location. Practical things, but there was something simmering underneath all of it, frustration, maybe, or fear. He wore it in the tightness of his shoulders and the way his eyes avoided hers. She sat by the window, flower still resting in a glass by her side, and tried not to let the quiet crack her open. But it did. Around midday, she found him in the workshop, hunched over the console again, rechecking wiring that didn't need checking. "You haven't looked at me all day," she said. He didn't answer right away. "I'm looking at the problem," he muttered. She tilted her head. "And what problem is that?" Marcus dropped the tool with a clatter. "That the trade authority knows you're here. That they'll send someone eventually. That I don't know how to protect you." Naya's voice dropped, cooler than she meant. "You think I need protecting? I think the galaxy's built to break people like you." It struck too deep. She stood slowly. "People like me?" Marcus cursed under his breath, stood, and turned toward her. "I didn't mean it like that. He ran a hand through his hair, visibly unraveling. "You're not just someone I picked up from the market, Naya. You matter to me, and that terrifies me." That stopped her cold. "I'm not a burden," she said quietly. "I didn't say that. You didn't have to." Marcus's hands dropped to his sides. "I've already lost someone I couldn't protect. I can't lose you too." "You don't own me, Marcus," she said, voice firm now. "You didn't save me like some damsel in distress. I chose to stay. I know that. Then trust me to stand beside you, not behind you." The silence that followed was heavy, emotion thick in the air between them. Finally, Marcus exhaled, voice softer. "I'm not used to this, having someone caring this much." Naya looked away, jaw tight. "Neither am I." He took a step forward but didn't close the distance. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you feel like a weakness." "You didn't," she said. "You made me feel like a memory." His brow furrowed. "Is that bad?" She shook her head. "No, it's the most dangerous thing someone like me can feel." Marcus didn't move. He just watched her with those storm gray eyes, torn between regret and something deeper. A pause passed. "I was going to leave," she said, barely more than a whisper. "After the drone, I thought about slipping away in the night." Marcus's face shifted, pain, panic. "Why didn't you?" "Because of this." She pointed at the flower on the window ledge. "Because for the first time in my life, someone gave me something and didn't expect a piece of me in return." His voice cracked when he said her name. "Naya, I'm scared too," she said, stepping forward. "But I won't be kept safe like a relic in a vault. If we run, we run together. If we fight together. But I won't hide from the galaxy again." Marcus looked like he might say something, then just nodded, a slow, understanding kind of nod. The kind that came not from victory, but surrender. Not to her, but to them. He reached out this time, taking her hand first. "Together," he said, their fingers intertwined. Outside, the wind had picked up again, the kind of wind that usually came before something big, something final. But inside, they were still standing, cracked, afraid, but not fractured. Not anymore. The first sign of trouble came at dawn. A ripple of static passed through the perimeter jammer, triggering a low hum that vibrated through the floorboards. Naya sat up instantly, her senses already on edge. Marcus was up before she even moved, scanning the display on the wall with practiced urgency. Perimeter breach. No ID tags. 5 life forms coming in fast. Naya's blood turned cold. "Scouts?" Marcus shook his head. "No, too many. This is a retrieval team." She was already moving, bare feet across cold floor, pulling on her boots, wrapping the light jacket she'd taken to wearing, not out of habit, out of choice. Her choice. They didn't speak for a moment as the tension in the air thickened. Then Marcus looked at her, rifle slung across his back, a pulse grenade in his hand. "This is your chance to go. I'll cover the front. You take the trail through the ridge and don't stop until you reach the tower. There's a pilot there, Zara." "She owes me." "No," Naya said, her voice sharp. He blinked. "I'm not asking for a debate, Naya. I brought this on you. Let me." She grabbed his wrist. No, her eyes burned not with fear, but with resolve. You didn't bring this on me. I chose to stay. I chose you. And if they want to take me, they'll have to tear us apart. For a beat, the world seemed to go still. Marcus exhaled through his nose. The fight left his posture, and in its place came something heavier, understanding. Then we hold them off together, he said. They fortified the house as fast as they could. Marcus laid traps at the back entrance. Nia rewired the drone jammer to send out decoy signals. She didn't hesitate. Didn't ask how. Her fingers moved with precision, mind clear. The trauma that had once paralyzed her now moved through her like fuel. The sun rose, casting orange light through the haze. The silence before the storm. Then came the sound. Boots on dirt. 5 of them, armed, efficient. Marcus stood at the window. With his rifle, eyes narrowed. They're not authority, he muttered. Nia looked up. What? They're mercs. Contracted. No insignia, which means they don't care about protocols. They're here to extract dead or alive. He looked at her then, voice low. They don't know what you are. Not really. They just want to turn you in and get paid. Nia stepped forward, the flower he'd given her still woven into the laces of her wristband. Then they'll see what a Lirelai is capable of. He raised an eyebrow. What are you capable of? Her eyes shimmered faintly as her skin lit with bioluminescent lines, stronger now, controlled. I remember pain, she said. But I also remember every kindness, every injustice, every face that turned away. And I'm done hiding from all of it. Marcus couldn't help it, he smiled. Remind me never to piss you off. Then the first blast hit the door. The sound shattered the silence. Marcus fired the first shot, a warning. The mercs responded with precision, breaching from his side with a concussive charge. Smoke filled the entryway. Nia ducked behind the workbench, tossing the signal jammer into the hallway. It exploded in a flash of white noise, sending some of them stumbling. Marcus dropped one with a clean pulse to the shoulder. Nia charged another, striking with a metal rod she'd sharpened days ago without telling him. She wasn't a soldier, but she wasn't helpless either. And in that chaos, smoke, shouting, fire something inside her awakened. She didn't fight like a warrior. She moved like a memory, slipping through their reach, always one step ahead. Her empathy wasn't a weakness, it let her anticipate, feel their aggression, turn it against them. Then someone grabbed Marcus from behind. The third merc, a brute in black armor, slammed him into the console, sending sparks flying. Nia saw red. She screamed, not a sound of fear, but fury, and launched herself at the attacker, landing a blow that cracked his visor. Then Marcus twisted free, kicked the man back, and fired again. The remaining mercs hesitated. One raised a communicator. Marcus shot it out of his hand. The standoff hung in the air, and then they fled. They ran, leaving smoke, silence, and scorched earth behind. Marcus leaned against the wall, breathing hard, blood at his temple, eyes wild. You okay? He asked, voice hoarse. Nia nodded, panting. Her lip was split, her arm bruised, but she was standing. I'm fine. Then she walked over to him, cupped his face, and kissed him. This time it wasn't hesitant. It wasn't testing the waters. It was fire and survival and everything they hadn't been allowed to say. When they broke apart, she whispered, I'm not property. I'm not cargo. And I am not afraid of who I am anymore. Marcus touched her forehead to his. Then let's make sure no one forgets it. They stood there in the middle of a half-destroyed house, side by side. And when the next drone flew overhead, scanning the ruins, it didn't register surrender. It registered freedom. Because Nia and Marcus weren't just surviving anymore, they were fighting for the right to live on their own terms. Together, they didn't wait for the second wave. By sunrise, the fires in the hills were still smoldering, and the scent of scorched metal clung to the air. The mercenaries had been just a preview. Marcus knew that the next group would be bigger, better equipped, and less inclined to leave survivors. So they ran, or rather, they left with purpose. The old desert runner Marcus, kept buried under the shed, sparked to life after just attempts, a miracle given its rusted panels and age. He tossed her a bag of supplies. She caught it midair, no longer hesitating, no longer wondering if she had the right. They rode fast and quiet across the ridge, engines low, systems scrambled. By the time the sun was at its peak, the city walls came into view, tall and grim, surrounded by landing pads and watchtowers. No one walked in the open here. This was a transit hub, not a home, a place where people came to disappear or pay. for the privilege of pretending they didn't exist. Naya kept her hood up, head low, eyes sharp. Marcus walked beside her like someone who belonged, dusty jacket, confident stride, the calm of a man with nothing left to lose. They passed a checkpoint. Without issue, Marcus flashed an outdated but convincing ID, and the guard barely looked twice. Naya's heart pounded the whole way through, but no alarm sounded. Not yet. Zara's workshop sat in the shadow of a half-collapsed tower, hidden in plain sight. The sign above the hangar blinked in languages and promised no questions, no refunds. The woman herself was leaning under the belly of a compact cargo hauler, her legs sticking out, a plasma torch sparking like fireworks. She didn't move when Marcus called her name. Zara. From under the ship came a voice laced with smoke and sarcasm. If that's a debt collector, tell them I'm dead. It's Measy. Out came goggles pushed up on her forehead, revealing a face aged by solar burns, cigarette scars, and too many bad deals. When she saw Marcus, her expression softened just a little. Damn. I thought you'd have drunk yourself into a crater by now. Almost did. Then her eyes landed on Naya. They narrowed, assessing. This her? Marcus nodded. Zara exhaled. All right. How bad? Trade authority. Contracted bounty. Merc's already made a move. Zara whistled low. You really know how to pick them. She didn't pick this. Naya stepped forward. I need to get off world. Zara raised a brow. You both do now. Marcus glanced at Naya. She nodded once. Zara rubbed her face, muttered a string of curses in at least languages, then gestured to the hauler. I've got a short-range jump set for Tau Ceti. It's out of authority reach. From there, you're on your own. You've got an hour. Before my window closes. They worked fast. Marcus helped load fuel cells while Zara calibrated the nav system. Naya rewired the security protocols to bypass authority beacons. It felt coordinated, like they'd done this before, like they could do this. As the ship began its final startup sequence, Zara pulled Marcus aside. You sure about this? She asked quietly. You're burning every bridge you had left. You disappear with her, and you don't come back. Marcus didn't hesitate. I don't need to come back. Zara stared at him for a long moment, then shook her head with a dry laugh. You know, I still remember that day years ago. I was cornered by trade patrol outside the Helix Belt. Had crates of illegal sensory tech in my hold. No transponder. No permit. They were going to impound the ship or throw me out an airlock to save on paperwork. Marcus's brow furrowed slightly, his voice low. You never told me what happened after. Zara shrugged. Didn't need to. You already saved my ass. Some no-name mechanic with clearance codes you weren't supposed to have. You could have turned me in, walked away clean. But instead, you wiped my ID, scrambled satellites, and told me what was it. She smirked, her voice turning almost soft. Fly like you matter. Marcus looked down, the memory flickering across his face. You gave me freedom that day, she said. Didn't even know my name. She glanced at the ship where Naya was settling. Into the co-pilot's seat, the faint blue glow of her skin reflecting off the glass. And now you're doing it again. Just for someone else this time. Marcus met her eyes. She's not someone else. She's everything. Zara held his gaze for a moment longer. Then she smiled, lopsided and a little sad. Then you better make sure you don't break her. Go. They boarded just as the warning klaxons started echoing across the city. Authority patrols too late to stop them, but close enough to make escape a gamble. Marcus threw himself into the co-pilot's seat. Naya's hands hovered over the controls, waiting. He looked at her. You ready? She smiled, small but real. I'm not afraid anymore. The ship launched. Engines screamed as they tore through the atmosphere, dodging beacon locks and scrambling signals. Naya's fingers danced over the nav pad, sharp and confident. Marcus handled the defense grid. Zara flew. The ship shuddered under pressure but held steady. And then they jumped. One blink, one breath, gone into the black. The stars were different out here, colder, sharper, but also clearer. Like someone had wiped the sky clean. They didn't speak for a long time. Then Marcus leaned back, exhaled, and let his head fall against the wall. Well, he muttered, that was a hell of a way to say goodbye. Naya looked at him, her expression unreadable. It wasn't goodbye, she said. He glanced at her. She was holding the flower again somehow. In all the chaos, she'd protected it, pressed between pages of the book he'd given her. It was bent a little, crushed, but still glowing softly. She met his eyes. It was the first thing that was ever Mine. I want you to know I chose this. I chose you. Marcus blinked slowly, as if her words needed time to reach every part of him. I didn't think I deserved that. You didn't have to. They sat in silence a while longer, staring out at the stars. Finally, Naya spoke again. You gave me freedom, Marcus. Not just from them, from everything. From a belief that I was nothing. You were never nothing. I didn't know that until you looked at me like I was something. Marcus didn't answer. Right away, he reached into the storage panel beside him, pulled out something small wrapped in cloth. He handed it to her. What is this? A new memory, he said, to carry if you want. She unwrapped it. Inside was a small carved pendant, rough, hand-shaped. It was etched with a symbol she recognized from Lirelai ritual markings, her people's symbol for rebirth. Her hands trembled. She looked at him, blinking hard. I thought you didn't believe in symbols. I don't, Marcus said, but I believe in you. And that was everything. They arrived on Tau Ceti a day later, a small moon, quiet, remote. No authorities, no records, no questions. They didn't stay hidden. They lived. They built a little home near the cliffside where wild windflowers grew in the cracks between stones. Naya taught the children of the village how to recognize emotional resonance in plants and stones. Marcus fixed broken generators, patched ships, and once a week played cards at the market and always lost. And on their roof, under alien stars, they kissed like they were still running, but now toward something, toward each other. It was one of those mornings that came softly, the kind where the air was just cool enough to carry the scent of distant blossoms, and the breeze moved, like it didn't want to disturb the peace. The sky above Tau Ceti was washed in pale gold, clouds hanging like scattered memories across the cliffs. Marcus stood in the garden, boots half-laced, a spade in one hand, forgotten. He was staring at the house not because something was wrong, but because something was right. Naya had stepped outside a few minutes ago, barefoot in the warm dirt, the edges of her robe catching in the wind. She wasn't glowing, at least not in the usual way. Not from her bioluminescent skin or faint light trails on her collarbone. No, this was different. She was beaming. He could feel it before she spoke. She looked at him from across the garden, her hands folded just below her stomach, her smile quiet, knowing, a little afraid, but mostly hopeful. He dropped the spade without thinking, crossed the space between them in long steps. She didn't say the words, she didn't have to. Marcus looked at her, eyes wide, already welling with the kind of emotion he didn't usually let surface. You're sure? He asked, barely able to get the words out. Naya nodded, a small laugh escaping her. I checked multiple times. The scans, they're clear. He reached out as if she were made of light, resting his hand against her stomach. No bump yet. No sign of change. But he felt it, the future. A life they had created. Something that never should have been possible according to the science, according to the genetics, according to the past. And yet here they were, alive, together, and expecting. Naya looked up at him with misty eyes. I didn't think, I mean, after everything I wasn't supposed to be able to. He kissed her before she could finish. It wasn't a heated kiss, not desperate or frantic like those early ones back when they were still learning how to be safe in each other's orbit. No, this one was full of silence, of awe, of gratitude. When they pulled apart, he rested his forehead against hers, hands still on her belly. A kid, he whispered. We're going to have a kid. Naya nodded again. And now she was crying to a good kind, the kind that meant something had been healed. Even if the scars were still there, they stayed like that for a while, in the breeze and the golden morning. People who'd spent most of their lives in shadows, finally learning how to live in the light. Later that day, Naya sat by the cliffside, with a blank page and the carved pendant Marcus had given her. She traced the Lirelai symbol for rebirth onto the page, then beneath it, another glyph, the ancient word for hope. When she finished, she looked out at the valley where windflowers danced in the sun, and smiled. The past would always be a part of them, but now the future had a heartbeat.